Hello, this is Mrs. McCurry. We're going to be talking about the Earth and what makes it unique today. Sorry, my cat decided he had to leave. Um, so, looking at your article that you talked about, it brought up some specific points about the Earth and what makes it special, what makes it unique, and also just about where it is. What makes the Earth the most unique is that there's life on it. The fact that there's life anywhere, not to mention the fact that there's life everywhere. You can look at any kind of ecosystem, any kind of habitat, any continent, any situation, and you're going to find life, whether we're talking about humans or cats or dogs or plants, microorganisms. In any type of environment you can imagine, there is some sort of life there. We think about, in between the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle, that's where we think about most of the biodiversity, which is a fancy way for saying all the different kinds of life. We've got all the animals and plants. We have the different kinds of, within the animal kingdom, there's the mammals, and the fish and the birds and the reptiles and the amphibians. And within the plants, there's all the different kinds of plants. And of course, within each of the categories of animals, there's all sorts of different kinds of animals. But also, there are organisms that live in the most bitter cold, in the ice, in Antarctica, whether they are, full plants, flowering plants, or they're just these little microscopic single-celled organisms called extremophiles. There is life everywhere. Everywhere you look, you can find some form of life, even if it's just the germs. Because, bacteria is still alive, and that really is what separates Earth from every other planet that we know of at this time. We are the only planet that has life and that has the right circumstances for life. And it just shows that Earth is special and Earth was created for a purpose. If Earth was accidental, there are so many different kinds of animals and plants and organisms that live in so many different circumstances that you would think that some of those circumstances could be replicated somewhere else. If the extremophiles can live in the ice in Antarctica, I find it hard to believe that they couldn't also live in the ice in Pluto, but they don't. They just live on Earth. And that is just something that really shows that it was planned, and God planned everything, and He made specific animals specific to every region, and every animal and plant that lives in a specific ecosystem in a specific niche has what it needs to live in that area. Another thing that makes Earth special is that there's liquid water and solid land. Now, some of the other planets have this solid land. Mercury, Venus, Mars have solid land, but they don't also have the liquid water. If you go out farther, Pluto and Neptune and Mars, they have frozen water, but that unique combination of liquid water and solid land really makes Earth very special. Sorry. That didn't work. Okay. Really makes Earth very special in that, we have what we need in order to sustain life, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. The Earth itself is 8,000 miles in diameter, meaning, I don't know if parents still do this, but I know when I was a kid, it was a thing that parents said that instead of running away, you could dig a hole to China. Anyway, so that would, if you wanted to dig a hole to China, it would be 8,000 miles deep. And I'm not saying you'd come out of China, but that was That was the phrase at the time. So yeah, if you just started digging on one side of the earth, it would take you 8,000 miles to get to the other side. Now the United States, the continental United States, is about 3,000 miles in distance. So this is almost 3 times the United States, just through the diameter from one side straight through the mantle and the core, and then the mantle and then the crust, all the way to the other side. It is the Earth is then 6.6 times 10 to the 21st tons. That's how much mass it has. That's how much it weighs. Or actually, yeah, 6 times 6 times 10 to the 21st tons is a measure of weight. Or if you want to talk about the mass, we have approximately 6.0 times 10 to the 24th kilograms. And that is how much mass there is. Mass being the amount of particles something has, weight being how gravity affects all those particles. So that's how big it is, and that's just astoundingly huge. The Earth is 93 million miles from the Sun, and that is a very specific distance. It takes the light and energy, the heat from the Sun, about 8 minutes to get from the Sun to Earth, covering that 93 million miles. In those 93 million miles, the rays from the sun lose a lot of their heat, a lot of their energy, but not too much, creating the perfect climate and the perfect temperatures for life to be sustained. If you look at Mercury or Venus, they're too close, they're too hot, there's nothing that can live there because they're just getting baked. They're constantly getting baked. And then even our next closest neighbor, Mars, is just completely frozen because it's not getting enough heat. So Earth is put at a very specific point to get exactly the right amount of energy, amount of heat to sustain life. And it's just amazing. Well, it's amazing that we're there. It's really not amazing that God knew where to put us because God knows everything. But, you know, again, it goes to show that everything was planned because we are in just the right spot. And our temperatures can fluctuate to keep average temperatures in the right spot. And really, again, it's just amazing. For one orbit, the distance the Earth travels to get around the Sun one time, that ends up being 584 million miles. So say we're here, you know, today for me is November 30th, 2014. So to get right back to this spot between now and November 30th, 2015, the Earth will have traveled 584 million miles. And that's just a huge distance. Now, to do that, it's going to take 365 days, 6 hours, 49 minutes, and 9.45 seconds, and that makes up our year. Now, in your article, it says this is like almost a constant number. It's constant to 1,000th of a second. So that's why we have these, you know, 2 decimal points after that 9. We're talking about thousandths of seconds. And for it to be so precise is just astounding, and again, to me, shows that it was designed. You know, it's like a clock, that everything is just so precise and so perfect. Because, you know, if it just kind of happened, I would think there would be something in there that would throw it off, because things don't seem to happen so nicely and so consistently. God definitely works with a set of rules, using gravity and everything, and he uses those rules to benefit his creation. I mean, that's why those rules are a mirror of himself, a mirror of his consistency, and a mirror of his order and his ordered mind. But also, you know, God could have created any world that he wanted, but he created our world. And our world is made in such a way to, keep us alive, to continue God's creation, and it really is just amazing. So let's look at some of the different aspects of the earth and our situation that God put in place that helps to keep us alive. All right, and so one of those, you get to look at some lovely pictures that I drew, is the rotation and the revolution of the earth. So like I said, the earth is over here. Gonna pick a pen. Gonna make sure it's not really, really thick. We'll go with medium. Medium. Okay, sorry. The earth is over here. We've got, I'm really bad at those brackets, sorry. 93 million miles. Our heat and our light travels in 8 minutes. Okay, so we're going from the sun to the earth. Now, as the heat and light are going, we get some areas like the equator-ish here in my beautiful picture that's getting a lot of heat and a lot of light, direct sunlight very consistently. And then we have our poles up here. Again, bear with my wonderful drawings. That because of because of the axis of the earth is tilted, and as it revolves around the sun, as it goes around the sun, the earth, the tilt is going to change what pole is getting more direct sunlight. Like right now, I have the northern hemisphere getting more sunlight, so for the northern hemisphere it's summer, and the southern hemisphere down here is getting less direct sunlight, and so we get winter. Now this tilt doesn't change as it rotates, and so then, as you can see, if we would be getting, if the earth is now on this side of the sun, I can't draw that right now with the size, but if it were over there, there'd be more sunlight over here at the southern hemisphere and less sunlight reaching these tip tops in the northern hemisphere. And so over here we've got summer, over here we've got winter, and then when the earth is up here or down here and everything is more or less even, then we have spring and fall. And that is all caused by the tilt of our axis here. And that is happens during our revolution, and it happens, seasons happen during the year. Let's get rid of some of this here. Go away. Okay, get rid of all this. Okay, so now, then we also have the rotation. I'm sorry. Now, in our revolution, the Earth is going around the sun back to where it was, a year ago. And this was not always the predominant theory at, I guess up until about the 16th century. Most people in the world thought really the entire universe revolved around the Earth. And this was due to a lot of different things, but particularly the verse, not sure if it's in maybe Judges. There's a verse where, I guess it must have been in Joshua, where God tells the heavens to stop so that the Israelite army can fight for longer, because I guess the battle was determined by the day. And so God tells the sun to stop moving. And so based on that goes back to an article that, or a statement from a book that says, it's hard for science and religion to come together sometimes because we are sinful humans, and even though God created this perfect system, well, we sinned and messed it up, but now we have a sinful understanding of the world around us, and it's really hard for us to see how everything fits, whether we're misunderstanding the Bible or misunderstanding the data that we're being given from our surroundings. We don't understand, and so it's really up to us to just trust God and know that He knows better than we do, and just trust that when we get to heaven, everything will make sense. But then in about the 16th century, Copernicus came along, and through mathematical formulas and a lot of observation, a lot of data, proved that actually everything in our solar system revolves around the sun. And this is the model we currently follow. It's called a heliocentric solar system. And before we had a geocentric, geo being Earth, helio being sun, we had a geocentric, really, universe. And this was disproven in the 16th century by Copernicus. Now, our rotation is when, let's get this axis back, when the Earth spins on its axis. You can see I have the light blue and the dark blue. So at the moment, the light and the heat from the sun are hitting this side of the Earth, and they're getting light and heat. And so we have our day over here, and this side is not getting light and heat, and so we have night. But again, God made our planet the right size. He made our rotation the right amount of time so that, when we're here on the day, we don't ever really get too hot. And when we're over here in the night, we don't ever get too cold. It's balanced out so that way, again, the Earth is the right size. We're at the right distance. We have the right rotation speed so that way the temperature can average out and we can maintain a sustainable temperature for life. The moon also, we're going to keep this picture here because we're going to talk about our tilt. The moon also helps sustain our life. Right now it's at the exact right spot. It was put there, and it is so large that its gravity actually pulls on our water because it's a lot easier for water to move than land to move, and that is what creates our tides. So when the Earth then rotates and revolves around the Earth. The moon rotates and revolves around the Earth. It might not have been what I just said. Anyway, so as it's doing that, it pulls differently. The side, if it's over here, it's going to pull on this water. If it's on the other side, it's going to pull on the water over there, and that's what creates the tide. It also gives us this nice axis here. Hopefully you can follow all of my random pen markings. It gives us this axis that allows us to have those seasons that, again, really help to regulate our temperature and make sure that we're not getting too hot or too cold. Because if we didn't have this tilt, our poles, still on eraser mode. Let's get our Earth back. Wow, that's really thick, sorry. Let's go there. Okay, so our poles would shift up to here, and it wouldn't ever really get warm enough at the poles to really regulate the temperature the way we would need to, and so we'd just constantly be having more and more and more and more ice here, and then that would put uneven, it would put uneven pressure on the Earth, and we'd kind of end up with a little cylinder-y Earth. That does not look like a cylinder. We'd end up with a little cylinder Earth instead of a spherical Earth. That would not be good. Okay, another lovely picture. Yay! Okay, so the fact that we have solid water, again, is extremely important to the regulation of temperature. And it covers 70 to 75% of the Earth's surface. Okay, so let's walk through all of these lovely doodles that I have here. Okay, so these yellow lines are the rays from the sun. And the blue over here is land. I'm just going to put sun. And over here we have water. All right, so during the day, the land is going to heat up very quickly, and so it's going to have, a much higher range of temperatures. So it can go from, say, anywhere. It's November. I'm in winter mode. Sorry. It can go anywhere from, say, 0 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to, I don't know, like 40 degrees Fahrenheit easily in the course of a day, because it's solid rock. The molecules in solid material are a lot closer together, and so they transfer energy very quickly. There's, a lot of variation in the topography, in the mountains and the landforms, and that's going to highly vary the temperature. Whereas in the water, everything is all even. It collects the heat rays very evenly and distributes them very evenly. So when so it's like you're microwaving food. If you microwave a big bowl of, if you microwave like meat or something, the outside is going to get really, really hot, but then the inside is still going to be cold. If you microwave a bowl of water or a cup of water, it's going to be the same temperature throughout. Then when you take the meat out, or, at nighttime when the sun is no longer on the land, it's going to get cold again very quickly, whereas the water is going to maintain that heat for a very long period of time. Now, that works out very nicely for all those places that are, within a certain distance of the water, because this water is going to help regulate that temperature. All right? And this also applies in the summer and the winter. Anywhere that there's water around a place is going to have a much more stable climate than something that's completely landlocked. If you look at, Europe, Northern Europe is very far north in the scheme of the Earth, but because, say England is completely surrounded by water, it has a climate much more similar to what we would consider like the middle of North America. I think England, I'm not so awesome on my latitude and longitude of different countries, but I think England is like up with like Newfoundland, Canada, as far as like the latitude. But it has a climate much more similar to, say, Virginia, because it's completely surrounded by water, and it's not only surrounded by water, it's surrounded by a water current that comes from the Caribbean. So this water, even though England is at a very high latitude, the warm water that's coming up from the Caribbean keeps it warm, whereas if you look at North and South Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska, all those places that have a great range of latitudes and that are much lower, much farther south than England, they, don't have that water to regulate them. So, Minnesota can go from anywhere from, 40 below in the winter to 100 in the summer. And it has just a huge range because there's nothing to keep the temperature stable. Whereas England, the water is holding that temperature. And since so much of our planet is water, it really, even though, it's unfortunate for places like Minnesota or the middle of Siberia or, inland in China, overall, our country's temperature, or our planet's temperature, is fairly well regulated. We have one more picture, but I promise it's the last one for this lesson. Okay, so our air itself is also very helpful in regulating temperatures and regulating gases. So the air is heated by the sun. The rays come down directly and they heat up the air. These nice black lines, that's a city. So in somewhere like a city where you've got a lot of concrete, you've got a lot of black space. I don't know. The air is going to come, the energy is going to get absorbed in all of this, all the asphalt, then the sidewalks, and then the hot air is going to rise. So yellow, sun rays coming down, orange, hot air rising. Okay? But in our nice little make-believe city, we have some green space over here and trees. And then we have our water over here where the temperature is being regulated. So we just have cooler air over here. Now as hot air rises, that is going to leave, sorry, I'm going to erase part of my city, but that's the way it works. Okay, so that's going to leave gaps, and it's going to create space for the cool air to come in. All right, so the cool air is going to flow in, flow over the forest over here, and come in and replace this. And that really is basically the bulk of weather. Now, as this happens, let's get my orange back. This hot air is going to come up, and now this air has moved out, and so there is space for air to come in over here. So this hot air is going to come over here and then come down. So we have a nice little circle. As it does, as it comes over this nice green space, a lot of the CO2, carbon dioxide, things that are given off by cars, a lot of the smog, a lot of the pollutants are going to get sucked into the trees, because that's what trees do. They bring in carbon dioxide, and then the trees are going to give off oxygen. Because again, God made them so wonderfully so that we have something that's going to clean our air, clean out the bad things that we give off, and then produce exactly what we need. So if you just look at it, everything from the air to the water to the moon to even the way the earth itself moves is all designed to support this life, to support all these organisms that God created. And so it's really just unbelievable that anyone can look at these things and think that it happened by chance. But that is something we will deal with another day.